how to write a persuasive corporate tours page. This is what we need, a little persuasion. So the three things we're going to look at today as we talk about moving up, we want to talk about a page for corporate. We want to talk about defining your reader. And then finally, we're going to give you some tips here at the end about what to actually write on that page and some guidance for creating that copy. So number one here, this first idea, which it sounds like just from going through some introductions, we already have this idea in our head. We need a page for corporate. That we see a lot of tours that have just a private events page, and they just kind of put corporate tours as a line item of something they do. We want to follow the advice of, we're going to go with the Chicago Blackhawks here, being from Chicago. My apologies for whoever else might get offended by this, but a good friend of mine who works for Shopify, who's a conversion expert there, is this idea of one page, one goal. That's what we want. We don't want to give this person a choose your own adventure on that page. We want to keep these pages focused on one goal in this one person concept. So when you're building it out, we don't want to be talking to multiple audiences, which is what leads us into this next point of defining your reader, that we need to know one before we go try and win thousands of people. And it feels a little counterintuitive to think, I want to win a bunch of corporate groups. Why would I just go after one? But it's, again, we want that one page with one goal for one person with one purpose. The more specific we can be with that, the more that's going to cut through. And so when you think about that guest, a lot of times people think I'm going after corporate, I'm going after a building. But no one's standing outside of a building with a boombox saying, hey, listen to me. There's someone inside of that organization that's going to be the first domino to fall. And that's what we need. We don't need your page. We don't need this corporate tour page to win over everybody. We just needed to win over that first person to start those conversations within that organization. And so we want to know, who is that person? Is it 42-year-old Elizabeth, who's the head of HR? Is it John, who's the director of sales? Is it Mark, the CEO? Maybe it's just 23-year-old Brittany that we have to talk to first, which is the one who's looking at this information for her boss and then taking it to them. We want to understand who that person is, because there may be smaller things that we want to talk to by the time we look at what's important to them. And they may have opposing things, and that's fine. Mark hates escape rooms. John loves escape rooms. Let's not try to talk to Mark and John. There are plenty of Johns in the world. There are plenty of Marks. Let's make that messaging direct and really cut through for who it's going to be. Don't try to focus on everyone. Pick one person in the organization. And I promise, if you focus that one, more are going to fall in line when you go after that one person. So we know we need to have one page with one goal. We know we want to focus on one person. And now what to write? We want to write something that person wants to read. One of the biggest shifts that we see in language is you're going to notice on a lot of pages, and now that you hear about this, you might always see it like the FedEx logo, but it's when sentences start with we. When a sentence starts with the word we, you're talking about yourself. You're talking about, this is what my company does. This is what we do. We can change that and make it more about them. So instead of, we are simple, the book can handle any dietary restrictions and will deliver a memorable experience, we can shorten that and say, this memorable experience can be customized to meet your dietary needs. Remove the we when you're looking at creating some of those sentences. We don't want it to be about you as much as we want it to be about, what does this person get from taking your tour? So some other things you want to avoid. We want to avoid talking about how amazing you are. You are. I know it's true, but we want to talk to them about why they're going to have an amazing time. Again, what's in it for them? That's what they're coming to this page looking for. I'm trying to book my corporate group. Give me the details on that corporate group. You can avoid telling people every little thing that's included. We want to go back to some sales fundamentals and this idea in sales that we just want to sell to the next step. I don't need to give them all of the information about what you do for corporate groups. I need to give them enough information to pique their curiosity to then say, I should reach out and talk to them from there. So don't overwhelm them by putting everything that's there. We're not trying to sell them on buying the whole experience. In many cases, we're just trying to sell them on talking to you. As we just mentioned, avoid starting sentences with we, are, or your name in third person. Rhetorical questions. Oh, I hate rhetorical questions on websites. The reason is because if we think about all of the things that had to happen for someone to land on your webpage, that they had to find out about you, they had to sit down, they had to punch in that URL, they had to pull up that page, and now they're going to get a page with a question at the top. Oh, kills me. You want to use that space. Don't use a rhetorical question. Give me the answer to that rhetorical question. We get nanoseconds of their attention. We don't want to waste that attention by posing a rhetorical question. Get straight in, tell them the benefits, communicate why they want to take a tour with you, and let's get them moving to contact you. Finally, the last thing here to avoid is using witty language, taglines, or trying to make things sound grandiose. Especially when we're looking at corporate, a lot of times they are moving on. This is a task they just need to get done. We want to give them the details of here's what you get, here's what's in it, here's what to expect. We don't want to use taglines. And it's hard because taglines is what we see everywhere. This is what we see on TV. It's what we see on billboards. It is the easiest thing to start mimicking to try and write in that capacity, but we want to avoid that. Clarity is going to be greater than wittiness. Just let's be clear of this is what you get. So those are some of the things to avoid. I want to talk about some of the things to do. As we mentioned, we do want to start sentences with the word you. So another example here, instead of our private tours pick you up, deliver a relaxing experience, let's change it. Let's just change that sentence from starting with our to starting with you. And all of a sudden, again, when we just make that little move is when we frame it for the reader. Because when they read that first part of our private tours, they have to say, that's what you do? What does that mean to me? Oh, this is what I get. We're cutting out this whole step when we just start that sentence with you and communicate, this is what you're going to get out of it. So a few more things we want you to do as you're writing that corporate tours page. One, make sure you're answering that person's question, what's in it for me? This is above all the thing you need to absolutely communicate on that page. Test this page once you write it, bring it to a friend, bring it to a colleague, bring it to a family member who maybe isn't even as familiar with what you do, and say, do you understand this? Do you get this? Again, we want to make sure it's clear what they're getting. We want to use short, direct sentences, avoid run-ons. We see run-ons a lot. Again, shorter, direct sentences, because a lot of times we're writing at a 7th grade reading level to make sure that everyone reading this can comprehend it. So we're not using big words. We're not making it sound grandiose. 7th grade, we're going to use as few words as possible as well. Adam, what's one of yours? I know I've got some bad habits when it comes to putting too many words in there. That, I always use that a lot. That can usually be pulled out. Anything else they can look at to pull out?
Yeah. Well, one, to your point about the 7th grade reading level, for comparison, the New York Times writes at an 8th grade reading level. So it's not like you're having to dumb down your messaging. It's just the way you convey it. Filler words, like you're referring to, I used to teach creative writing, and I'd tell my students to go through and do a word cut. Once they've written it however they want to write it, then go through and see how many words you can just cut out and have it still say the same thing. And usually you'll be able to get 30% of the words out of there. The other thing is prepositional phrases and stacking those. A tour of the cathedral with a guide, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Try and not stack prepositional phrases next to each other.
I think that'll come back into those short sentences. Will help them avoid some of those prepositional phrases. Is that correct? Perfect. Thank you, Adam. Okay, finally, last one here. We're writing for real people. Is that there's been this trend of writing for search engines, but I promise you, the 3rd paragraph down on your corporate tours page does not need to be jam-packed with every single keyword. It is not going to influence your search engine rankings that much. Yes, having the right words on the page can help, but even the right words on the page are one of 200 plus different factors that go into ranking you on search engines. I'm more concerned that if we go through all this work of getting someone to look at that corporate page, maybe you did some direct outreach, maybe you read our previous article about ways to get in touch with more people, that if you looked at that stuff, we just want to know that by the time we're getting a person on that page, that's who it's written for. It's written for a person to read this and understand this is what I get out of it, and the language has been written for them. That is what we have for some guidance on writing that page. So
hey,
3 big things there. And Adam, what do you got?
I got one more I forgot, and it's really important. If you see that you're writing with adverbs, those ly words, see what the sentence sounds like without them. For the most part, adverbs don't, when you think they're actually enhancing what you're saying, they're actually detracting from it by making it longer and more, as Joe says, grandiose.
I love how for as long as I've been writing, that still when you say adverbs, I have to ask, well, what's an adverb? But we'll get there. We'll get there someday, Adam. All right, some more tips. Anytime you have any questions on this as well, feel free to reach out, get in touch with us. But moving up, those three big things. Number one, like we talked about earlier, make sure you have a page for corporate. One page, one reader, one goal for that page. And we're going to get that page great because you've already taken the time to define that reader and say, I'm writing for 23-year-old Brittany, because that's who really is going to be seeing this page and communicating. And then finally, some of those tips of what to write and keep you in the right direction. Hope this helps you create a fantastic corporate tour page that is persuasive and cuts through.